Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Submerged. So there's this make a postcard thing, and I'm wondering if you actually just have to hit print screen. No, that was pause break. No. Print screen would be the other one. Nothing indicates that works. Let's get back to playing the game. Theoretically, like, oh, and the game's gonna be easy and let you just mount your vehicle without having to climb down too far. Theoretically, you can hit print screen on anything and from that point go into like paint and paste that image, so you could get any number of screenshots that way. Hey, we saw some flying fish, although I didn't see them. I'm noticing, however, this boat is getting jostled a lot and bounced around. So it's half and half, and I imagine if I was to try to pull out this, can we get any real stability? I guess it does come to a full stop when you do this, but I feel like the game is intentionally making it difficult to go in this direction, and I really don't even know from the map like which direction I'm going. So we get some boost upgrades. See, there's a pig sign. And I'm imagining what you should do is just look around from every point, because if I was to design this game, what I would do is have the game effectively be a manta ray. Interesting. So we're seeing all the animals. I'd have it be a complex web, like a spider web of points, and in the points that you achieve. Now these whales would not be so capable to move through this area. And here's a little dolphin. You just have to keep your eyes on it. I'm very interested in how that's working. That I suppose it's not very difficult to actually program something like that. Just if something is on the screen and being rendered, which plenty of reason that the computer engine would already need to know that, you should. And let's go back to the map. We know there's a secret that direction. And each building seems unique, and perhaps if it wasn't the case, it could have had a bigger experience. And here's a red piece of what would you call it? Plants? Now looking through things did work last time, but I think that's probably a little bit of too much cheating for such a game we already know is going to be short. A lot of algae, as one imagine would expect. There's another thing. Most of the differences in the buildings, though, seem to just be signs. Small, pretty insignificant differences. Maybe there's something there I can use. Location added to the map. That's a very tall building. So you would imagine in most games having something that big and tall would require some kind of upgrade, some kind of pathing to make sure that that was one of the last things you did. In this case, I don't think that's gonna be how it works. Now, for any other game, I would be using a criticism that I use on games a lot to say that this is unfinished. And there's really no reason not to make that same argument here. It feels like it is designed and created in such a way that that there should have been a lot more, and there isn't a lot more. And if I actively go up this big building for this secret, I imagine it will show me a lot of other things I can do. And we're trying to keep our eyes out because those are, I believe, the flying fish we've already seen. It may be that it's impossible to get to some areas so far. Holographic pictures. Excelsior Hall. Just because the construction looks like this, there's no guarantee that these buildings were built even in our time, in modern time. They could have been built hundreds of years later in maybe a retro architecture fad, or very possibly, is that a dolphin? Things just didn't change architecturally. It's not like a building from 200 years from now really has to be any different. I suppose it's an interesting consideration. Should there have been a Bioshock like this, where you got to the surface and you boated around? Well, you know, Bioshock 1 and 2 was in Rapture. Rapture was a city that was sunken underwater. If it had come floating to the surface, or if they somehow the entire area had been sunken, the entire world had been drowned in water. That would have kind of worked as a concept and still been within the storyline as a bridge. Here's something. I'm far away from where I was. So if this is New York like I suspect it is, Manhattan, then we would have seen several bridges that would have connected to the island. I see that there's something to collect over there, but I can't look at it with my So if this is Manhattan, it really wouldn't be too much to continue into like the rest of New York State or New Jersey, particularly if you have a boat. And if there's any achievements or anything like that for looking at everything before you collect it, I've probably already missed that because I've collected a couple, and that wouldn't suit me very well as an idea. It just wouldn't be good gameplay. Similarly, a non-violent game where we're just going from place to place collecting things doesn't suit the BioShock series. And trying to run around with a gun and a wrench is probably not a smart move. It looks like, if I was to guess, let's see what happens. Looks like we very possibly are just going to infinitely boost. And how far are we? There's many unique ways that you can trick a system like this. You could program it to literally create infinite water. You could have the current that slows you down so it looks like you're traveling a far distance. It let me get pretty far away, though. Further than I suspected it would. Maybe there's something up there I can use. The Rulia Hotel. And I imagine when we hit a hotel, that probably means there's a supply crate. This is a decent point to pick up a supply crate. Of course, there's also a danger in moving the story forward, because maybe that means there will be some things that are uncollectible when you move the story forward. Sometimes they make games like that. Also, perhaps if I end the entire game, it won't unlock into a free play mode that you typically would expect a game to be kind enough to do for you. So there was nothing over there. Music sounds good. A soundtrack like this would probably be one that sells. I just saw a creature. Where'd he go? That creature just appeared and disappeared. Into this blue plants. Interesting. Another statue. Air conditioner. Vent. Blue plants. What do blue plants mean? Are there any birds around that I could look at? We hear a lot of birds, but seeing them. And I imagine we're not going inside buildings. Yeah, to reinforce the idea of an unfinished game, I imagine you could have a game where you traveled around like this and you went inside buildings, the buildings were infested with some kind of monsters, and then you shot monsters, and then it would be very Bioshock-ish. And this could just be the transport mechanism, which Bioshock never really had a great transport mechanism. Let's be honest, it usually was a one-way train ride. Should I go down or should I go up? Let's see. That's the funny thing, is we may end up doing all of this again. I suppose ideally we should just get up to a place before we do anything else. This is not where we started. You can't zoom out any further than what the default zoom is. And game feels a little weird about not unlocking things as much as I thought it would. I know there's not a ton here. A small tight area like this kind of demands a lot of secrets, and it certainly would be easy to do something like a Crackdown game and have collectibles on inner alcoves somewhere, orbs floating in the air that you have to collect, things specifically hidden on ledges. Bump it up to your standard 100 to 300 plus collectibles. 150 in total, split between a few different categories. Seems a little low. I guess I have to compare this. Oh, she can climb up these too. Good to know. To something like Grow Home. Grow Home was a actually incredibly small area that gave you the ability to grow plants and make the area a little bit easier and bigger, but not by much. I'm gonna push all the way in the wrong direction and nothing happened. I'm gonna have to climb on the outside of this building, I suspect. And when you get on an edge like this, clearly there's not gonna be anything to find on the other portions. Many elements of these buildings are being reused, but that's not really a complaint you can make in architecture, because that's just realistic. Get some more music playing. I assume that there's nothing over there. While it could be devastating to the average length of the gameplay, if I did miss something and have to climb a very large building all over again, being a 4-hour game, realistically, at most it's going to add 30 minutes of gameplay. And these beeping are beacons. And on top of every building are plants, but oddly no plants, no trees growing out of the sides of buildings, so it's kind of confusing how they would have been on top and nowhere else, unless you assume that they are being planted, which maybe they are. So, looking at the map, we are way at the top right, and we are right at the edge of the map too, which means I guess I can just subtly go in circles or move just up and down the entire map and reveal everything. The only real concern is we've got this, we're getting like the last pieces of the story, of the city story, so probably should have gotten to the beginning, closer areas first. Well, our story is going to happen with each piece I collect, and creatures, we have dolphins, flying fish, manta rays, and whales, so there's only 4 more creatures to even find, and we haven't found any landmarks. One would think that these bridges we classify as landmarks, but maybe they're just too big. I think we were over there already. So let's take this back. Quick travel back to the center, which is a good gameplay mechanic. And we've got a lighter. And then it loads. I don't like that it has a loading screen. This game doesn't really justify that. And we can see that creature again. And we were just killed by a whale. And so she starts a fire to keep him warm. That probably will help a little. And our hands and feet are getting green, covered with algae. So the mother drowned. You can see her scarf has like intrinsic bead patterns and cutouts. It's a shame it clips right through the floor. I need something for Taku to drink, and I assume, yeah, candles. You'd think they'd be used up by now. Assume she knows enough to not. Yeah, that was, I assume, the mother, by her height being slightly lower than the green guy with the square. Also by the fact that she has a curve symbol in front of her, and she has a triangle. That's a lot to assume for very little that you're told, but either the mother or father, or whoever I'm calling them, was oddly, I haven't seen anything that points me to the right. Like, immediately it pointed me to the left, and from the left we went in our own way to go further left, and that seems almost odd. We should go to the right, I believe. Of course, I don't really know where to go on the right. Ideally, I imagine they wanted us to go to the supply crate that's over there on the right. And as far as secrets, we have 8 of 60 done. And let's see, I guess everything else is marked here. It's a shame there isn't a like total counter. And make postcard. Still haven't figured out how that works. And we won't deal with that. Well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.